So I took a trip to my local transmission supply and grabbed a few things today for $170. Now, the one thing I did need was the sun shell for $35. But I figured while I was in there, I should probably throw a shift kit in. And then I grabbed a high performance wide band and a couple gaskets that I needed as well. This band is much wider for more grip. That improves, I think, first and second shifts. And here is the sun shell that I need. Look at that, made in Taiwan. That's unfortunate, but probably the only way that we can get them that cheap. And that just kind of sets the industry standard for parts. Now this, the trans shift kit, I'm wondering, it seems like I don't even need to do any drill work. I don't see that sign on the box, so I'm kind of anxious to see what that looks like on the inside. So I'll get to that. I do need to get that band soaking in transmission fluid to kind of pre-lube that friction material. So I cleaned out a plastic tote, and I will just fill that right up, and then I'll probably end up reclaiming it for filling up the transmission when it comes time. So I'll get that totally saturated and then get to work. So this input shaft and first hub assembly has some frictions and steels inside here, but I have no reason to pull that apart. That's probably the hardest part about doing transmissions, is lining up all those friction plates again when you tear it apart. But this is the sun shell right here, and that's what I need to get to. You can see that little yellow snap ring. I need to remove that, and then I should be able to pull this whole assembly out. Now, it's very difficult to film this and show you down in there, but what I did was I used some inside snap ring pliers here to spread it apart. And then I used this, it was like a T15 bit, and I'm sorry that this is not focusing well. There it is. That I ground to make like a scratch-all. And I went straight down. As soon as I spread it apart, right out of the splines, I just stabbed it down and held it in place. And then just used this handy dandy pick here that looks a lot like an Allen wrench to just work that out, work it around in circles until it came undone. Now I should be able to pull this assembly and replace that sun shell. And looky there, that's broken. Well, I'll work on getting it out, but you can probably see that all the way around there is just sheared right off. And apparently that's what happens when you don't give this time to get into gear and you're kind of rocking it back and forth when you're stuck. But this will be a pretty easy fix. It came apart very simple, and like I said, I only have, I think, one set of clutches that need to be aligned to get back into place. And otherwise, this is going to go together very well. Very simple. So I've got the broken piece out, and I put the black thrust washer down in there already. So I can drop this down in. That's in place. And another thrust washer. That's back down in there. Now I need to work on getting this C-clip back in place. And I believe I should be able to just push it down. That's what I'm going to work on. With that bevel on the C-clip, it's not as easy as just spreading it apart. It wants to kind of fight you. So I'm going to fight it back for a little bit. All right, well, that C-clip back in place. The new sun shell is in. And on these big heavy teeth right here is a set of steels and frictions that need to be aligned. And those are inside the drum that I pulled off. So it's time to see how my luck is going to turn on this and get this put back together. All right, so in there you can see that band has been soaking and there are no air bubbles or anything released into the transmission fluid, so I would say it's fully saturated. Look at the deformation of the old band, how stretched out it was, so it had to have had some heat in there to make that happen. I mentioned too that this was a wide band going in, and you can definitely see the difference in width. This one's got probably a good ½ inch extra, maybe more, and that's a good thing. So this piece is now ready to install now that the band is in place. And those planetaries, they are cut at an angle. So as this drops down, it's going to rotate. And so I can't just line up the clutches. They have to be a little bit offset. So hopefully they didn't move too far from when I took it apart. And hopefully it'll drop back together. But there are 6 frictions that need to be dropped into place. So I should be able to count how many times it drops and spins and turns at the same time. So as you saw there, I ended up removing the band to be able to get this front drum in, and then putting the band down around and getting it in place. And now it's pinned in place here, and then the servo is holding it. So it's got a little bit of slop. I believe there's supposed to be like an 1/8 inch or so of play in that band. And looking at it, it does have that. So we are good to go there. Now, my shift kit entails working on the pump and the valve body and a couple springs replacements here and there. So that is the next to do.